Hey everybody, it's Bishop Megan Rohr from the Sierra Pacific Synod, and today we have another one of our Meet Our New Staff conversations, and with me I have...
Catherine. Hi everyone.
Will you introduce yourself so people can get to know you?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Catherine Slabaugh, and I am a recent graduate of California Lutheran University. And today is day 2 of my role as the Communications and Connections Coordinator for the Sierra Pacific Synod. I call the Sierra Pacific Synod home. So I grew up in the Synod. I grew up in a congregation in Davis and was a member of our Sierra Pacific Synod Youth Committee, known as SPISIC, and then went to a partner university at Cal Lutheran. And during my time at Cal Lutheran, I worked in the Office of Congregational Relations and the Office of Campus Ministry, and studied abroad and earned 2 bachelor's degrees, one in communications with an emphasis in public relations, and a second degree in theology and Christian leadership with an emphasis in children, youth, and family ministry. And I always got the question, what are you going to do with those 2 things? And something like this is the perfect answer that I wasn't able to articulate back then. So I'm grateful to have found a job that finds a marriage of the 2. And I graduated in 2020, peak COVID, and entered into my first job working for a congregation as their ministry connection coordinator here in the Ventura County area. And I'm in the process of moving and relocating and starting a new job and doing all the fun adult things. So I'm excited to be with you all and to be returning to my home synod. I'm very familiar with the Sierra Pacific Synod, so it's good to be with you all again.
All right. What's your favorite thing about the Sierra Pacific Synod? Let's hear it.
Oh, something I think is a really cool thing about the Sierra Pacific Synod is our geographical reach. I like how geographically diverse we are and how widespread we are, and just how different all of our congregations and all of our people are. And when I was on SPISIC, I quickly became friends with youth in Reno and youth in Fresno and San Francisco, and that was just really cool. And I know a lot of other synods, so the synod down here in Southern California is geographically really close. So it's fun to be a part of a synod that is on the coast and in the mountains and in the desert and everywhere in between. The people are all right too. Yeah.
You should at least give like a shout out to your parents. Do you want to be like, hey, my parents?
Oh yes, my sweet Tom and Karen parents. Yeah. Yes, great folk.
Yeah. Well, and in a synod as big as ours, right, all the way from the Oregon border down a little bit past Visalia, and a chunk of Nevada, it's all the more important that we are able to share information and to hear in diverse ways so that people don't feel like it's just one part of the synod that is making all the decisions for all the other parts of the synod. What kind of ideas and thoughts do you have about how we can be folk who talk to each other better?
Yeah, so my role is new in the synod, and so it's kind of forming as I continue, and will probably continue to form over the next couple of months in my first couple of months. But for now, I think the best way to describe the work that I'll be doing is sharing stories of people and of ministries and congregations and our partners that are in the synod, sharing those in 5 different ways that might reach you personally the best, and then sharing information about how you can be involved and get to know the people that are doing that work or get connected to that work. I'm relational based in my ministry. So part of my first couple of weeks is just meeting with people and getting to know them and getting to know their stories, so that I can hopefully help share those stories and tell those stories. So I've been working on a comprehensive communication strategy for the last couple of days, and we'll continue to work on that and edit it as we go. It's always a work in progress. And part of that communication strategy entails all of the different ways that we're going to communicate as a synod. And so I think that's a really unique blessing that came out of this past year and a half, 2 years now, is that we were stretched and we learned and adapted and grew in our communication and in our ways to connect with people in different ways that we may have not felt comfortable with or known about in previous years. So I really am passionate about how do we continue that work? How do we progress that forward? So whether that be having Zoom conversations with people in Fresno and in Reading, and creating an online community together, or whether that's grouping up with a bunch of congregations in Sacramento to do some hands-on work together. Those are just a couple of different ways. And communications is something that changes every day, changes every week. There's a new trend, there's a new platform, there's always something to adapt to and learn about. So I know that the communications that come out of the synod will always be rooted in transparency and trust and celebrating who we are and the work that you all do. But it'll also change month to month and year to year as our needs change and as platforms change. And that's fun and that's exciting. And I'm grateful for everyone that is along and on board.
So there is a thing called the Synod Newsletter that goes out to over 5,000 people on email. Mm-hmm. One of the number one questions I've gotten in the first 18 days before you arrived was, how do I get my event in the newsletter? So how do people get their event in the newsletter?
That's a great question. I think right now you email me. So my email is my first name, Catherine, @spselca.org. That's the best way for now. That's not to say that in a few weeks we might have a different way of doing that. Our hope moving forward is that the newsletter is a platform that elevates stories and connects you to find more information. So they might be a bit shorter, they might be a bit more concise, but they're still going to be filled with everything that you need to know for that week. So yeah, go ahead and reach out to me. In the first couple of months in the synod, I'll be doing a lot of just asking around and listening to who I should know, who should I connect with, who has a good story that the synod can help elevate. And so if you are someone that is involved in work that you think the synod should know about, or might be interested in sharing that with people, definitely reach out to me. Or if you know someone, definitely send me a little lead or something.
Here's your first lead. Are you ready for it?
Perry.
Perry from the Synod Resource Center. Yeah, we're thrilled to have the Lord's work among us through you again.
It's good to be with you all, and it's good to be back. Yeah.
And the Synod Resource Center, for those who haven't heard about it, is a lending library that you can check out books and have them be mailed to you. And the idea is that you don't have to buy a whole new set of books when you're trying to figure out what you want your next VBS curriculum to be, or when you want to have the next kind of faithful book club conversation. And they're going to be working with Catherine directly to see ways that we can take that to the next level and help get resources to folk in kind of this new digital age.
Yeah.
And there's Synod storytellers too, who have been collecting stories for quite some time. So if you're part of either of these groups, you know who to call now.
Yeah.
That's right. Will you tell people a little bit about some of the online conversations that you were helping with Desta at CLU?
Sure. So all 4 years at Cal Lutheran, I worked in the Office of Congregational Relations, and each year kind of took on a different role. So my first 2 years were focused on their communications connections with different congregations and faith communities and connecting them to Cal Lutheran. And then my junior year, Cal Lutheran and PLTS, the seminary in Berkeley, applied for a grant through the Lilly Foundation. and launched a program called the Thriving Leadership Formation Program. And I got to be a part of writing the grant and proposing the grant to the foundation, and then having the grant be accepted and implementing the first year. My senior year was the first year that the grant was in action. And that was a group of cohorts that were led by different rostered and lay leaders in regions 1 and 2. And it was a way to support and to connect with people. And so these cohorts were led by an individual who was experiencing a certain aspect of ministry. So maybe it was a cohort led by someone who's in their first call, and a bunch of other people that were also in their first call joined together and created this group where they were authentic and they were supportive. And that was really incredible. And as we started to, as Desta and I, Desta is the Director of Congregational Relations at Cal Lutheran, as we started to do more of these online communities through the cohorts, that was right when the pandemic hit in the later half of my senior year. And we started launching these panels, I guess you could call them. They were listening panels, and they were led by different people in faith communities, and they were all about how to do ministry in times of crisis. So think back to like March and April of 2020, when we were all, our heads maybe are still spinning, but they were definitely spinning then. And we just, our hope was just provide a space where experts could share about what they know on the topic to equip other faith leaders in regions 1 and 2. And my role in that was on the back end of facilitating those conversations. So facilitating the Zoom, making sure people had the resources afterwards, and just supporting those people that came and spoke. So that was one of my first experiences, really, with the idea of online community in such a like geographically widespread situation. So we had people from the East Coast joining these Zooms, reaching hundreds of folk. And I think after this past year and a half, we all know the value in those and hope to continue to do that sort of work here in the Synod. And that's something that I hope and I'm excited to connect with on the Resource Center about. They have so many different people that they're connected with, and we have so many educated and people in our Synod that are just ready to share and teach and walk with people through different areas of ministry. And so I'm excited to lean into that a bit more and figure out how we can continue that work coming out of the pandemic.
So are you just going to focus on online things?
No. While I may be primarily working remote, and I'll be in the Synod about once a month in person, my hope is to kind of be the facilitator of everything. I think community can happen online and in person, and both have their strengths and values differently. And so my hope is to help facilitate both of those. I think depending on the season that we're in and the things that happen in this world, maybe sometimes we'll lean more into the in-person and sometimes more into the digital community space. But no, that's one really great thing about this Synod is that when you think communications, think of a target audience, like who are your people that you're trying to reach? Our target audience is so diverse and brings so many different elements. And so I can confidently say that my hope is that there will be something for you, and whether that be in person or online, our hope is to provide a space from the Synod for you, wherever you are.
I like that. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about part of your faith journey.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You grew up in the Lutheran church. You went to a Lutheran college, and now you're working for a Lutheran Synod.
I know. Lutheran running through my veins. Yeah. I talk about this with my parents sometimes how sometimes when you're raised in the church world, you get in the habit of going through the motions. And I can say that I definitely, I went through the baptism, I went through confirmation, I went through the motions. But I think where it started to become tangible and it started to become something that was my own was actually my first time at camp. So I attended Mount Cross. I'm a true fan of the Sierra Pacific Synod. I attended Mount Cross for confirmation camp, Shalom camp, when I was going into 8th grade, I believe was the first time. And I think really felt the Holy Spirit and the presence there. And it felt real, and it felt like something that was rooted in the people I was around and the relationships. And there was just an energy and a presence that I couldn't quite put a word on. And now looking back, now I know that was my first real encounter with discovering my faith and discovering the Holy Spirit and the way that it moves. And camp then became a very sacred space for me, and a space where I really grew as a leader in the church. And I think if I were to explain what being Lutheran means to me, or what being a follower of Jesus means to me it's all about the people I'm with and the relationships and the way that I carry myself in this world. And I think that the best part is that it is work and it is personal for me. And so I get to live out my faith in quite literally everything that I do these days. And that's really special.
So you talked a lot about experiences when you were a young adult. How do you plan to communicate with young adults?
Well, as a young adult myself, I have the privilege of getting inside their head a little bit and knowing what the best way to reach them is. And I think young adults are there's a lot of research right now out there about the transition of Christianity and how this has impacted. So I'm in Gen Z, or millennials, have a very different relationship with Christianity and with religion, and it is really relational. And it's faith in action. To a young adult, going to church might not mean sitting in a pew on Sundays. Going to church might be serving the homeless on a Friday night. Going to church might be volunteering. I mean, there's so many different ways that primarily young adults connect with their faith and their religion these days. And so my hope is to meet people where they are and continue to invite them to the table. So showing them that church can also be sitting in the pew, and it can be serving outside of the church, and should be both. And so that's kind of from a big picture perspective. From a communications perspective, my generation is fairly digital and fairly reactive and quick. And so I know that I need to capture people quickly and get their attention and get them involved and engaged. And young adults are big on authenticity. So they're big on people showing up as who they are. And I think that the Lutheran Church, the ELCA, is changing and adapting. And my gosh, so is the Synod. And I'm confident that a lot of young adults are blown away by the changes and the steps that the Lutheran Church is making. And so I think we need to, figure out how we can meet them where they are and continue to provide a space that they feel comfortable and confident showing up to.
And for those who didn't know, in the Lutheran Church, we define young adult as anyone 30 and below because of the average demographic of the Lutheran Church. All right, we have a question from Tim Phillips.
Okay.
What was the most transformative experience or class during your time at Cali Lutheran?
That is a great question. I think the gift of going to a liberal arts school is that have those transformative experiences in different ways. So if I think about like a religious transformative experience or a class, I took Dr. Colleen Wyndham Hughes. She is she has since been promoted to a higher position, but she was is the head of the Theology and Christian Leadership program, and she taught a class on children, youth, and family ministry. And in that class, it was required that we do some really intentional introspective work on who we are, different relationships that we have with people. And then also there was a strong emphasis on being out in the community. And one of those experiences led me to go to the extravaganza with the ELCA. And moments like that, where you get to study something and then put it into action and see others put it into action, is really transformative and special. An experience was probably my time studying abroad. And that's pretty cliche, but I had a unique experience studying abroad. I didn't do the typical travel to all the countries and be really on the go. I went to Florence, Italy, and I made a conscious effort to be really present in the community that I was a part of. So I did an internship while I was in Florence, and I volunteered at a homeless shelter, and I participated in their like half marathons that they did and their farmers markets, and just really connected with their community, lived with a host family, and that changed a lot of my perspective on myself and the world. So pretty transformative.
That was a good question. I wouldn't have thought to ask that one. Good job, Tim.
Yeah.
What is something you haven't seen communicated in like a synod or a church space that you wish could be communicated? You don't have to know how to do it yet, but is there like a thing that you wish we could figure out together as a community of almost 200 congregations?
That's a great question.
I'm inspired by Tim's hard question.
Yeah. A lot of different things come to mind. I think just how we can, because we have so many congregations and they're all so different, really how do you share all the stories and how do you elevate all the voices? And there's always going to be someone that, right, like, oh, I didn't hear that was happening. So how do we just share the stories so wide and far of the work that we're doing? I'm biased in that I am passionate about youth and young adults. And so I'm always trying to figure out a way to connect with youth and young adults and mentor them and get them connected and be that relational element for them. And so that's an area I'm passionate about. I think the whole world is wondering how you engage youth and young adults in Christianity and in religion. So I definitely don't have the answer for that one. But yeah, those are a few things that come to mind. It's a good question.
So one of the reasons that I'm particularly excited that you'll be working with our synod is because you have some experience with the Western States Youth Gathering. And I like the idea of maybe our synod planning some youth events in a bigger way.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to tell people what that is that we're talking about? Yeah.
Western States. Yeah. So the Western States Youth Gathering happens on years that the National Youth Gathering doesn't happen. So the ELCA hosts a National Youth Gathering every 3 years, and it's typically somewhere in the center of the US, maybe a little more East Coast, to be accessible for people from all 50 states. Thousands and thousands of people come, and it's a very incredible, influential event for a lot of youth. And for people like me in their 20s that attend and get to be present with them. Western States is a youth gathering that is just for, we think of like west of the Rockies. So those Western states, a lot of regions 1 and 2. and it is a similar format to the National Youth Gathering. So we have a multicultural event beforehand. There's a day of service. There's a day of team building. There's time to just meet with your synod during the Western States Youth Gathering. And so the last gathering was in 2017. And for the last couple of gatherings, it's been hosted at Cal Lutheran. I know in the past they've hosted in the Pacific Northwest, but it has found a comfortable home at Cal Lutheran. And it was scheduled to come around at the 3-year mark in 2020 and has since been postponed. And so this summer is the National Youth Gathering. And so I hope that the Western States will come around again. But my role with Western States started fairly early in the year, in around September or October of 2016, as I worked on the communications for the event. And events are kind of an all hands on deck, so everyone has a role. But during the event, you know, everything, you do a little bit of everything. And so that was my first experience with with large events. We welcomed around 500 to 600 youth from all over the West Coast for 5 days at Cal Lutheran, I believe. And so for those 5 days, I was the primary event photographer and posted to social media. We also had a guidebook app. If anyone's familiar with Guidebook, we built out an app for people to use while they were present. And so it was my job to build the app in months prior, and then to update the app throughout the event to give people information. And then just also be a point of contact, a point of connection. I helped host some of our speakers. Bishop Megan was present with us at Western States, so I helped kind of facilitate some of their travel and welcome them in, and just got to be a part of behind the scenes event planning. And that is certainly something that many youth from the Sierra Pacific Synod are involved in right now, are those larger gatherings, and I'm excited to learn more. There's also a new group that has formed in the last year or two. I know they went by Cali Strong. I don't know if that is still the title that they're using, but they are a group of youth and young adults from the Sierra Pacific Synod, Southwest California Synod, and the Pacifica Synod. And they learn from each other, they listen to each other, they host online events, and I'm sure that they're thinking of ways that they can gather in person. So I look forward to working with them as well to host some larger events, and hopefully in a few years work again with the Western States planning team.
Our next question is not for you. It's from someone who talks to you too often and wants to hear me answer a question. And the question is, Bishop Megan, what are your hopes and dreams for Catherine and for her contributions to the Sierra Pacific Synod? And I think my hope is that here I'll step back for a second. When I was telling people that this might be in the works and they were getting kind of excited about it, one of the comments that I heard from someone was, that will be perfect, because even when Catherine was in the Sierra Pacific Synod Youth Committee, Catherine was never a youth. Catherine was like an adult who helped the youth grow into their adulthood while they were kind of a part of what was going on at Mount Cross. This idea that Catherine's been a leader in our synod for a very, very long time, and now that they've graduated from college and have the piece of paper that says they're good at the thing that they've always kind of been called to. What I'm excited for is for you to be a part of our synod, where everyone knows that you are an adult, where everyone knows that you have been educated to do this thing that you've always kind of been called to. And I think my greatest hope is not for like a particular tangible outcomes, because communications isn't, I mean, sure, there's metrics where you can say 50% more people liked the thing than they liked it 4 months ago. Like, you can look at numbers, but in terms of communication, it's very hard to be like, we have communicated, right? There's no like completion. And even if you did get the message out, there's like a new message that needs to go out next week. And so because it's a role that's kind of less tangible than other roles, legitimately, my hope and dream for Catherine is that Catherine feels confident, right? That you feel like that you can name and say it without any sort of shyness or hesitation, that you are good at this and that you are legit called to this. And so I think there are some moments when you get it, when you're like, yeah, I'm good at this. I rocked that event, right? But I think for me, my greatest hope is like to see what happens when you're given like a budget and some access and like a big platform, right? We have a Synod Assembly every year. Like, I'm so excited to see what happens when you get to like lead in all the ways that like it seems so clear that you are gifted in. What I also really like about you and kind of have hopes for is that like I think you are someone who are confident enough in your relationship with God that you don't need like the embroidery that I'll probably have to wear a bunch, right?
Yeah.
And that I think you have an awareness that you can articulate that that you can be a professional leader in our synod and not have a desire or a need to be the person serving communion, right? You can be a professional Lutheran leader and enjoy communion,
Yeah.
right? And to have communion be a palpable thing that only sometimes involves bread and wine, right? That there's lots of ways that people are in fellowship and community together. And I think you do a really superb job talking about the ways that the priesthood of all believers is a really real thing. And so I'm excited to kind of have a person in this position who no longer says, the youth are the future of our church. Because you would never say that. You're like, the youth are our church.
I am youth.
Well, you are and you aren't, right?
Yeah.
You are a professional, right? You work in the bishop's office now. That's a pretty good gig.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you're imagine how cool it is that there are people who volunteer or get paid to do newsletters in individual congregations, right? That's a cool job. And like, you are someone who's like, yes, we should help folk who are doing that job do it the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also true that it's your job to be someone who communicates to 200 people who do that job that you just admitted was a legit job, right? Mm-hmm. So I like the fact that we are recognizing leadership where leadership always was, right? And that you, for me, represent kind of a way of thinking that names that God is always with our youth, that our youth have things to contribute. And although there are times that I might shush my own kids because I'm not a perfect human being who lives this in every moment of ministry, that you are someone who not only like has those professional skills in yourself, but that instead of like using all of the skills that you're good at to shine the spotlight on yourself, that you are someone who naturally is called to like help other people get lifted up and to find their own voice and to share their voice more effectively. And so that's a combination of things I appreciate about you and things that are hopes and dreams. Thank you, Thomas, for this completely unbiased question. Do you want to tell people who Thomas is?
Yeah, Thomas is my father.
Yeah.
So you had to make an appearance sometime.
No, I love it. I think that's fantastic.
Oh.
Do you have any hopes and dreams for me?
Oh, gosh. I think one of the reasons that I felt called to this this position and to this synod. I'm biased. I like this synod, but I knew in my gut, I feel things in my gut, and I felt in my gut that this was going to be a moment in history, and I wanted to kind of selfishly, but also not selfishly, be a part of it and witness it from the inside out and get to hear and see all of the wonderful things that come out about it. And for those of you that don't know Bishop Megan is a dreamer. And that is so like exciting to work alongside. It makes my job way easier because if I need an idea, I just call Bishop Megan up and we've got 10. And so thinking outside of the box constantly is just so unique and so special. And I'm really excited to be a part of the synod, where everything is out of the box. Nothing, this past 2 years, nothing has been what life as we know it. So how do we move forward, taking everything that we learned and adapted to into this new season of life? And Bishop Megan is unafraid to just go out there and be bold in the world. And that is really cool to see as a person of faith. And I feel a lot of, I'm very proud to be a member of the synod, but then to also work on their staff. So.
And also with you.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to know some nuts and bolts. As someone who is going to help with communications, it means you get to help with Synod Assembly. We want to know some details about you. Favorite hymn?
Oh gosh.
Favorite 3 hymns?
You
can pick one, but if you can't pick one, then pick 3.
The Eagle's Wings hymn. Is it called
We'll call it Eagle's Wing. And I will build you up.
Yeah, that one. Little tearjerker. Yeah. I love that one. That's a good one. I'll stick with that. So that'll make an appearance at Synod Assembly.
Okay. Favorite style of worship?
Oh.
And you can describe it if you don't know the names of things for it.
Yes. I was raised in a traditional worship setting, so I feel most comfortable with really traditional liturgy.
What color was the hymnal?
Oh, it was still red.
Okay.
It was red.
Okay.
Might have been cranberry. Yeah. So when I'm in a contemporary worship setting, it's a bit uncomfortable for me because I know tradition, and so yeah, I'm pretty traditional. But it is cool to see things that are outside of the box. It's just it is uncomfortable, but I like to lean into those into that discomfort sometimes.
Favorite thing about Martin Luther?
Oh.
We're going rapid fire for young adult.
Favorite thing?
There's no right answer.
Oh, I do love, I think it's Old Lutheran that has made those socks that say, "Here I stand." Mm-hmm. So I do love that. That's not directly about Martin Luther, but he's featured on the sock. So
I like that puns are a part of what you like.
Yeah. I like that we're playful with Martin Luther these days. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Keeps it light.
Favorite book?
Oh. Ooh. My
Synod Resource Center wants to know.
Yeah, they need to have it on.
They need to know.
They need to get a copy of it.
Catherine's Book Club.
Yeah, I will admit I'm not much of a reader, probably because I had to read so much in college as a comm major. Let's see. I'm really into categories like autobiographies or just biographies. I like when they're personal and not about their work. Mm-hmm. I've read a few. Those are becoming trendy. I think about like Michelle Obama's book. Books like those where you really get to know someone for who they are when there's someone that you so typically see in the spotlight.
Favorite vegetable?
Salad, broccoli, corn on the cob.
Who says broccoli?
Corn on the cob.
Corn on the cob's an acceptable answer. Broccoli? Really?
All right. A little butter, a little garlic salt. Good.
Good grief.
Good.
What? So for the people who are trying to figure out how to do their communications in the synod, sorry, I have a cat who wants all of the attention. Why would a church be on TikTok?
Oh, so like I said earlier, there's 1,000,001 platforms, and every month, every year, a new one comes out, and one takes the lead. And right now, I think TikTok is probably in the lead for a demographic 30 and under. It is mind blowing what is happening on that app right now, and for those of you that don't know TikTok, they're really short videos. They're typically a bit more lighthearted, pretty funny. There's dance trends, there's cooking trends, there's something for everyone on there. And so if you're looking for a way to engage with a younger audience, TikTok is probably the best platform to do so. But Instagram also has Reels, and Reels are also short videos that are very similar to TikTok. And so if you don't want to venture out into a new platform, I would definitely think about how you can diversify Instagram and utilize stories and Reels, because your target audience on Instagram is a bit more widespread and you will likely reach a larger audience. TikTok is where the young kids hang out these days, but it's a fun platform.
Now on the opposite spectrum, Perry wants to know, for congregations without websites or those who depend on paper newsletters, or for a tech person to get to a Zoom meeting, are at risk of feeling removed from the office of the bishop, what might we do to connect with them?
Yeah, so as I'm drafting my communication strategy, as I mentioned earlier, I have a really wide target audience, and I have people that I think of in mind that might be in our synod, and might not have the accessibility or the desire to connect online. And that's just part of our reality. We're a hard copy world just as much as we are a digital world. And so my communications will be rooted in some of that hard copy, and those in-person, those tangible ways that you can connect with people, as well as the digital platform. So right now I have some hopes to send bulletin inserts, to send posters to congregations, to send like quarterly hard copy newsletters, all printed, so that you can connect with the synod and hear what's going on. And then also do those digitally and connect with people both ways. So I think it's a yes and. There's almost a separate strategy for how we connect with the print and the hard copy media, things you can hold on to, and the digital media. And so, yeah, just making sure that there's attention and care given to people and all ways that they receive communication is my hope, and ways to continue to connect with them.
And in-person visits means that we're going to kind of coordinate some travel with each other and think about how to travel with the synod. Will you tell people about our great Nevada adventure coming up? I just named it that. Oop.
Bishop Megan and I are in the process of planning a trip to all of the congregations in Nevada, and also one of our mission partners that is centered in Nevada, the Lutheran Engagement and Advocacy in Nevada, LEAN. We're hoping to connect with a bunch of congregations in person, and we hope to do this regularly, and it will likely be geographically centered. So we're going to Nevada, right? Going to visit all the congregations in a 50-mile radius there. We might similarly do that in Sacramento and get all those congregations together down in Visalia and Fresno. And so I know a big hope for the synod is that part of that connection comes from the synod office, and it's that connecting in person. We're transitioning out of how you typically think about people sitting in an office and thinking about what it means to be amongst you all. whether that's in person or digitally. So we'll definitely be connecting in person.
Yeah. And my hope too is that we can feature some of the other Synod staff. So as assuming Pastor Amanda gets her van and lives mobilely around the Synod, maybe she'll have a mobility blog and learning more about our mission partner spaces and what Pastor Tita is up to, seeing videos from spaces. So instead of just seeing my face all the time, that we can lift up kind of some of the things that are happening all over the Synod.
Yeah. Lots of storytelling.
Well, I'm excited about it. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want to share with people?
Oh, we covered the hymns, we covered Martin Luther, we covered the communications, anything. I'm a pretty open book, and like I said, I'm relational. So my hope is that these first couple months, I'm getting to know people throughout the Synod. So right now, I'm connecting first with our staff and every person on Synod Council and all of our mission partners, and getting to know them, getting to know who they are, what they're passionate about, and how the Synod can help share their story. And then I hope to do that with congregations and with roster leaders and with lay leaders and with our young folk and our older folk. And so if you are interested in connecting, definitely reach out. You can email me. My email is in the chat box. It's just my first name, Catherine at spselca.org. And hopefully I'll also get to meet some of you in person as well.
Well, we have lots of love being shared and lots of excitement for this new role that you are embarking on. Happy day 2.
Happy day 2.
I promise to not sing every day.
I did receive a call at 8 a.m. with Megan singing Happy First Day. So
yeah,
lots of joy here.
Well, thank you for being willing to join us on the staff and to give in service to the Synod. Thank you in advance for all of the leadership and the reaching out. And here's hoping that your email inbox is full now.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's good to be with you all.
All right. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again